Okay.
All right. So I think we're still in childhood somewhat. Probably more after high school. I think was where we finished up.
Well, yeah, that would.
So talking about here's a question. What words do you most remember from your mom and dad? Is there anything that sticks out?
Well, my dad would always say, "Get an education. They can never take that away from you."
Okay. Any
He only went to eighth grade, and he regretted it.
okay. Anything? Do you remember your mom?
My mom,
Word?
I was very young at that time,
Yeah.
and
Who was your hero
oh,
growing
wait a
up?
minute. My mother would always say, "Clean your plate. Those poor people in China are starving." I never could figure out how my cleaning up my plate would keep them from starving.
Sure. um, who was your hero growing up? Did you have heroes or?
My dad was probably my biggest hero because he was fought in World War II, and well, some of the teachers that I had in high school were Mr. Bruberg, our history teacher, was a very nice man and very intelligent, and well, most of my teachers I were pretty much heroes.
Okay. Try leaning that microphone towards you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Um, any other heroes?
Well, football heroes, sports.
Who would have been a football hero at that time? Football wasn't as big as it is now. Or,
No, it wasn't at that time. There was no professional league. Well, the professional leagues they were smaller at that time. Johnny Unitas as a quarterback for the Colts. At that time, it was the Baltimore Colts.
Okay, so sports really wasn't a big pastime, I guess.
Not no, it wasn't. They were after I got back from the army is when they really started up. They were on television then.
Okay, baseball probably would have been
Baseball was more the Yankees. You'd get the games on the radio. Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't see television until my senior year in high school. They had at the Sky Harbor. They had a television set, and you usually looked at the snow. There was so much. There was no television stations around, and
hmm.
it wasn't very good TV at that time.
So let's jump to college then. So you went to the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, in the School of Forestry. I thought I'd become a forester.
Okay.
Take care of the forests. And I was on both campuses. Took classes on both St. Paul and Minneapolis campuses. And they were on a half-hour schedule difference, so that you could ride the trolley over and back to your classes.
Interesting. What kind of an experience was that for you, going from a small town to the big city?
Oh, it was quite a difference. And we had some classes had over 350 students per class.
That is big.
They were held in auditoriums at the U, and then some classes were very small. It was a big change, and I had to work while going to school, so my first job was working at Great Northern Depot for the Addison Miller Company, and I did anything they needed done. I was bus the dishes, be a bus boy, or even worked the cashier, and then worked out in the soda fountain in the main lobby of the depot.
And where did you live?
Well, that's kind of I first looked for an apartment or a room, and I found a place. It was on Fifth Street. I mean Fifth Avenue and between University and Fourth Street, and but I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money. So I went over to the campus, and our former English teacher was working there, Miss Kelchik. And I came in the door, and there was a guy from that had been in a class ahead of us, was talking to Miss Kelchik, and she had just told him, says, "Have you found a place to stay yet, Les?" And he says, "No." And she says, "I suppose somebody's going to walk through the door and have a place for you." And he just grinned, and then I walked through the door and said, "Hey, Les, have you got a place to stay yet?" And she says, "Oh, no." So we roomed together the first quarter until we could both find a place closer to campus. He went to a frat, live in a frat house,
Oh, okay.
and I found another rooming house closer to the campus.
So would they have dorms then, or was
Oh,
it?
they had dorms, but I was too expensive to live in, right, for me.
Okay. So forestry wasn't the thing for you, or?
Forestry, oh yeah, I was a gun-ho forester. But I also took other classes. I took, besides the forestry classes, I had the agricultural engineering, which turned out to be surveying. That
Okay.
I really got interested in.
Okay.
And
But you didn't graduate from college.
no, I
You
did not. I ran out of money.
ran out of money.
I ran out of money after about 2.5 years. See, I had about $500 in my savings account when I came down to the U.
And there were no credit cards back then.
There weren't credit cards back then, and there really credit was hard to obtain back then. Even mortgages were hard to find.
So let's what?
Well, cash and carry was the
Yeah,
was the deal.
yeah. It's a completely different concept
Right.
than we have now, which I think a lot of people are going back to. You need to.
Yes.
So let's talk about relationships. How did you meet, well, your future wife?
Well,
guess?
I can tell you that was when I was in the Army. I was back on leave, and my buddy Dale Mickelson and I had gone down to downtown Minneapolis to see a movie, and on the way back, we decided to stop and get something to drink because I was very thirsty. We stopped at the White Castle, which is on the corner of Central and 4th Street, and car full of nurses was just pulling out as we pulled in, and we had to follow the car, so we did. And when they went back to their dorm, they just had to be back by a certain time, and lo and behold, I got Becky's address, and then I started writing her when I was in service.
Okay.
And we corresponded.
So you were out of college,
Right.
and you were
I was
home from the service.
right. See, after I ran out of money, I got drafted.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something. And we were dating off and on, and for a few years, and then got married in '59.
Okay. And where did you get married?
I got married in St. Lawrence, in Southeast,
In Minneapolis.
in Minneapolis, and the reception was held in Long Prairie, because that was Becky's hometown.
So how big of a wedding did you have?
All very small. It was a small wedding, just in St. Lawrence standards, it was small because the reception was held at Long Prairie.
Okay. And St. Lawrence was the church?
Yeah, that was right on near campus. It was on it stretched between 5th and 6th Streets.
Okay.
And would it be on, 13th and 12th avenues. That's where the church was located, between that area.
And then when you got married, where did you live?
Well, first of all, we got a one-room efficiency apartment that was in Southeast. The building has been tore down since then. It was we had a big Murphy bed that folded out from the wall, and you opened two cupboard doors, and that was the kitchen. And it had a little bathroom off to the side, and that was it. We moved. We only rented that for I'd say maybe 4 or 5 months, and then we found a better place.
Was she still going to school at the time?
No, she was working. She worked at the university at that time after we got married.
Okay, so that's why you would lived in Minneapolis.
So she worked at the University Hospital.
Okay.
And I worked for the MnDOT. I started 2 days after we got married.
Wow.
So it was quite a change.
Yeah. And then, so what kind of, I guess, did you have dreams as far as, what did you think life was going to be like, or did you have, this, we're going to get married and we're going to do this? Was there any?
No, I didn't have any dreams like that.
Okay. Just living.
Just living. Yeah, that was. I came from a very small family, no brothers and sisters. Then she had a big family, and that was kind of nice. I really enjoyed that. Her sisters, Esther was a really nice lady, and her brother-in-law, Mel, was a really nice guy. I enjoyed going on our trips up to Long Prairie.
Sure. So how long did you live in Minneapolis?
Well, we lived there. We lived, I said, for a few months at that one-room apartment. Then we moved to 8th Street, in the 500 block of 8th Street. We had a upper apartment. It was a 3-room apartment. That was bigger. And then we lived there for a couple of years. Then we moved, found a bigger one, closer to was about 23rd Avenue Southeast. We lived there for a couple of years till I started on 63, I think it was. I started working part-time at Sears and full-time at the Highway Department, which was right across the street. And I worked there for about 9.5 years and made some money so we could afford a down payment for a house.
Okay. And the down payment for the house is the house that we're sitting in right now?
Right now, yeah.
And so what year was that?
At 65, we moved out here. Right after, in June of 65, it was right after that big tornado came through Fridley. We didn't know if we had a house out here. We just put our money down, but we didn't know if we had a house to go to.
Interesting. So why out here? What was the draw?
Becky wanted to come out here because her brother lived out here, and so did her sister Nisi.
Okay.
So
that was 65.
Yeah.
And any kids at that time?
Oh yeah, we had Greg, David, and Steve. John was born when we were out here, and you came along about a few years later.
That'd be 1969. Okay, so and you were still working for were you doing 2 jobs at that time?
I was working for we were called the photogrammetric unit at that time, and we also did control for all the interstate work. We had to set up the control stations, and I worked 1 week I'd work out in the field, and the next week I'd work in the office doing all the computations. So that was interesting work, very interesting work.
Okay. There's still a bunch of questions about relationships that I'm looking at, so I'm distracted.
Okay.
So you didn't go on a honeymoon because you got married.
Right.
And then
couldn't afford it, for one thing.
Okay. So how did you know that she was the one to marry?
I don't know.
Okay. Um, okay, we're gonna take a break because a car just pulled up.
Oh, okay.
So